Hello, and welcome to the Spiritual Basics podcast with Dr. April
and Jen Merkel.
Hi, how's everybody doing out there today?
I'm doing well, and how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a little gray, rainy day here in Texas. I'll be happy to get some. Yeah, right. It's like Texas was like, just kidding. I'm gonna give you.
It was summer for like 5 minutes.
Right?
And for those listeners who might be listening to this when it's just newly released, we do record this a little bit early. I think this episode is going to be airing early May, so we're recording a couple weeks out. So by early May, I'm guessing it's going to be like 100 degrees. But anyway,
I hope not. It'll probably be a little bit different, but in Texas, that's the exciting thing. You never know what weather you're going to wake up to.
Yeah, just wait 5 minutes and the weather will change.
It's going to change, so I do love that.
So what's new with you, Miss April?
Oh, I got videos to record today.
Chihuahuas
to serve. I am their human servant.
How are they doing? How are your cheese doing?
They're probably wondering why you don't just go away somewhere.
Why are you still here?
Well, I know, right? How dare I interrupt their naps? Sometimes they're taking me on extra walks. Sometimes I'm taking them on a little extra. So just to get out and get a little exercise and fresh air.
It's good you're doing that for me with my little corgi puppy. I can't take her out when it's puddly because it's just a big, huge mess. It's like I can't bathe her.
She might drown.
She's so small. Actually, yeah, she's she just had her 8-month birthday and she's still only 16.5 pounds. She's very small.
She's
I like it. I've actually had people ask me, is she a miniature corgi? And I'm like, I don't think that's a thing, but
It is now.
So I was going to tell you, this is something funny actually. So you know how much actually I really don't like social media. I do it because it's a necessity in this day and age for business. But if it weren't for Facebook, I mean, if it weren't for like my sisters and my kids, I wouldn't even be on Facebook. It's just I want to see like their posts and stuff like that, their pictures. So I thought, though, I heard some business tips and I heard that, Twitter is still a thing. And I'm like, I can repurpose content and get back on Twitter. So I started a brand new Twitter. It's, gosh, I can't even remember my handle right now. It's not new. But anyway, so I wanted to make sure that one of my first posts was about our podcast. So, because, I'm really excited about it. And, our podcast also has a Twitter handle, and I'm hoping that people can find us that way, trying to get the word out there as much as possible. So I posted a graphic about the podcast, and it's the square graphic. And Twitter, I don't know if you know this, but Twitter will make it smaller so that it's elongated.
Okay.
So instead of saying spiritual basics, and then it has our little round photos. Then at the bottom says with April and Jen. They truncated it. It just says basics, and it's got our picture.
We're basic.
I know we were talking about this the other day. It's like, this is spiritual basics, but we are not basic bitches.
That's right.
And I saw that photo and like,
Twitter?
Well, no. I'm like,
Twitter making us basic bitches.
Whatever. Maybe we should do a redesign. I don't know. But I'm not doing a separate graphic just for Twitter. I refuse.
I know. I never got into Twitter. Just from a marketing standpoint, they say you have to tweet at least 5 times a day on that thing. Anybody got time for that?
Yeah, no. And you also, it's like retweeting. Like you have to keep up with other people. Yeah. It's not just about putting it out there. You cannot just, you can go and automate stuff to a certain extent, but you also have to retweet and react. So it's
crazy.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nope, not this girl.
Anyway, so so today's episode is all about angels with our special guest, Jason Carlson, which I'm really excited about. Jason is going to talk to us about different aspects of angels.
Exactly. And he's got a special program that he does as well that he's going to let all of our listeners know about so they can advance their studies, if you will.
So welcome, Jason. This is Jason Carlson joining us today for our very first ever podcast guest. Thanks so much for joining us, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Great. So, Jason, first to start out, tell our listeners about you, your background, and what you do.
Well, I am self-employed. It was around 2008, and I started a mailing business, a graphic design, printing, and mailing, which I'm still doing. And then at the same time, I found my spiritual teacher that was my first opportunity to learn about angels, which we'll be talking about today, and healing work, which we will also be talking about today. So my life really took a change at that point, and that's a lot of the story I'll be sharing with you today on that journey and stepping out and having faith and trust and connecting with unseen energies in a healthy way, and learning to trust God more.
That's fantastic. So can you give us a breakdown or explanation about angels for our listeners?
What I teach and was taught, and I'll say my business partner and my teacher that has taught me all this is Carol Lee, who resides in Florida at this time. But we teach about connecting with our God team that are unseen energies assigned by God to assist us with this lifetime, specifically with specific roles. So that's a number of angels or guides, you could say, that are, you could count on both of your hands, not any more than that, generally speaking. So that's not all angels. It's very specific.
That's really great to hear. And I did want to make a little bit of a point that here on our podcast, we've talked about spirit teams a little bit. So it's pretty much the same as saying God team. Some people call God spirit or source or the universe or different things, but we're all really talking about the same creative energy.
That's true. I will say God. We are saying
Yes.
God team because those are the words we use and I'm guided to use. However, what you said is correct. Even in the work that I'm talking about, it is universal. Mm-hmm.
And Jason, you mentioned that you found a teacher. I think a lot of our listeners would like to know, how did you know you needed a teacher? What happened to guide you toward this specific teacher?
Well, great question. So the story about how I ended up finding the right teacher at the right time. At the time, I was guided to go. I was going to a Unity Church in Fort Worth, Texas at the time, and so was my teacher. So I had been going there. It was really my first introduction into metaphysics, working with the unseen, working more than just with what I was brought up with, which was Christianity. And, we grew up in church. That's the way I ended up in Texas, was because we moved here so my dad could go to the Baptist seminary to be a pastor. So that was how I grew up in my belief system. Then I was branching out and interested in learning some other things. I just had a feeling inside of me that I wanted, again, to be more universal, more expansive. What else is out there besides what I had been taught and learned so far? So I was guided to Unity Church in Fort Worth, and I sat in the balcony where I like to sit because, I am a back pew Baptist, I suppose, at heart. But that's where I was, and I like to say that because, well, it's kind of true. But it was the end of the service one day, and the pastor was letting people stand up and give announcements for things they were going to be doing at the church for the next week. And one person that stood up was Carol Lee, who ended up being my teacher and now my business partner. She stood up and she was teaching our Gathering of Angels class that I'm going to talk about in a series of installments there on Sunday mornings at the church. When she stood up and said that, I was literally pushed out of my back pew. So I went down and met Carol Lee and told her that I would be there. And that's where it started. I did take those series of classes there at the church and started the process of bringing those energies in with awareness and on purpose. Well, started a clearing process for myself, I would say, which meant a lot of crying. I spent probably the whole series of those classes and the next classes I continued to take for a while, really doing a lot of crying, which is clearing, a soul remembrance, being reunited with something that I knew was real and that I needed to be, but in a different way. And it was honestly very overwhelming. I wasn't crying from fear or anything with that type of energy, it was overwhelming in a spiritual way. I was so grateful and thankful to be there, even though I didn't really know what was going on. But I knew that I was going to be coming back, and I've never left since. The first day I met her in the first class I went to, I never left. So here we are, quite a few years later, and now I'm teaching.
I know you probably, with all that, like you said, that crying and everything, it's very transformational when you go through something like that. I know a lot of people, myself included, have personal stories where they were learning something, because when you first get that little nudge and you get that little bit of, what's this all about? I want to learn more. And the more you learn, the more excited you get about it, and the more passionate you get about it. And then you start getting the downloads, and it just all starts streaming. And a lot of times it comes very fast. And that crying is an emotional release. And again, it's not necessarily something that you're sad, but it can be overwhelming. And I know that something, like for me, it was, and even to this day, like I even mentioned before we started recording how, when I get downloads, my eyes start watering, and that's happening right now too. So
yeah, I thought you made an excellent point that I just wanted to point it out, is that so many people, when they're first starting out on their journey, they're very conflicted because they think religion and metaphysics need to be separate. But it's your story is a wonderful way about how those things can be blended in a very healthy, happy, and healing way.
Well, that's an excellent point. And I always stress that, because it's true. What we're talking about, and anything that I teach, is not based in religion. Any belief system, I think, can plug into this if it feels right to you. I say, if you're guided.
That's great.
So are there any certain angels that you mostly work with?
Yes, the angels I work with myself are the ones that are on my God team, my spirit team, as we're calling it. Those are the ones that I'm working with. A lot of those are archangels, although not all of them are. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, and working with those specific energies, it's those energies or any that they bring in for a purpose. So they have the key, and they can they have my permission, obviously, to open and close those doors as they see fit in accordance with God's will. And that is what I'm aligning with. So I've surrendered to that, and they have the ability at any time to do that. And it is absolutely fine with me, and I encourage it. But even within that, it's still very specific and purposeful anytime I'm opening that door to do anything.
When you say specific and purposeful, what do you mean by that? Like, is there a certain question you're looking for an answer for, or a situation and you ask for their guidance? How does that work with you?
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, at this point, for everything in my life, I ask, or I'm at least listening, because we have built that relationship over time, so it's understood. But I am always, this point in my life, it's a bit more fine-tuned. When I started, it was just honestly being able to hold the energies and having them be around me in my energetic field. That was the first step before even having conversations or communicating further with that. And I like to share that with people that are listening, because everybody's experience is not the same. Where's your starting point? What's your life purpose? Who are the energies that are coming in for purposeful reasons to help you with your life purpose? So that can be different for all of us.
From a listener standpoint, what kinds of things can they look at their angels for help with? I mean, you've already mentioned life path situations or questions they might have, but what kind of things, if if I were just starting out, what advice would you give me as far as working with angels, and what should I be asking them for help with?
The first thing, if I was teaching somebody how to do this, it is easier to do these things in a group environment because of the energetics of it, first of all. The first thing we do is we invoke our God teams and these angels, and we, as a group, go through them one by one. So we're making it very specific with each one. Okay, Archangel so-and-so, or let's say my guardian angel. Okay, will you please step forward and reveal yourself to me? How will I know you better? What is your name? What will you call me? All of these type of questions is about building a relationship. That's where we start first. So if I am in that environment I am going to be also, we're going to be learning about how we sense and feel. So as we're starting that conversation and saying, how can I know you better? Please reveal yourself to me. Well, what kind of person am I? How do I sense and feel? Am I more of a feeler? I am. May I see things? May it be a combination? Can I hear them? You know, some people can. Some people are stronger on some of those abilities than others. So first of all, we want to find out, because if the person next to me is seeing something, the person on the other side is feeling, and I'm in the middle going, well, they're saying this and they're getting that. I don't want anybody to feel insignificant or that they're doing it wrong. It's to find out, no, you're going to get it, but how? So we can figure that out also, to be empowered as we are meeting our unseen friends. So that's the first step.
That's great. Jen and I did an episode, 2 episodes actually, in the past, all about your clairs.
Yes.
So if anybody doesn't understand what you mean by to see or feel, you can refer back to that. But it's so great that you make that as a basic step, and that you really stress everyone's an individual and how you connect with the individual, so that we can sort of stop that comparison of I might not be doing it right if I don't see versus just feel. So it's great.
That's very true. Yeah.
And there's no wrong way to do this, except I would say we teach it a very specific way, because when people are opening up to spirituality, some people in class might be very new to this. It might be one of the first things that they have done like this.
Exactly.
Or they could be a seasoned practitioner that's been practicing metaphysics and healing work longer than I have. But that doesn't mean they've been trained this way. So none of it's wrong or right. It is. And it doesn't matter, except to say that we teach it this way, a very specific way, because people can learn how and be taught to open up spiritually.
It's a skill, right?
That
it is.
Can be it. Yeah, but that can be it. They can be taught to open up spiritually, and then what? Now the door's wide open. What do I do exactly? Well, yeah, you should be asking that question. We don't want to leave that door wide open without showing people how to do it in a healthy way.
That's true, because if you think about it metaphorically, you wouldn't leave the door to your house wide open so that anybody could see in or walk in, or anything could just wander in. You want to be really purposeful about who you open that door to.
Exactly. And that is one of the biggest points of when we teach this class. Yes, it's to connect, but we're working with the unseen here, folks. You better know who you're dealing with. And that's one of the first questions I'll ask somebody if they have connections like this and want to maybe work in an event that I'm having or something like that. I'm going to have questions, because a lot of people that I have met in these metaphysical arenas working with the unseen may not necessarily be doing it in a way that looks healthy to me. That's the whole point of our Gathering of Angels class. Who are you working with? How do you know it's them? And if you don't know, you better find out.
What are some of your favorite resources that people learn about angels?
Without getting into a whole Doreen virtue conversation, we don't need to really, I think that's been talked about. If people don't know that, you can just look it up. But that was at the time, almost 15 years ago when I started this, that was a great resource.
Right. I learned the same. I cut my teeth on Doreen virtue, the same.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I still have those books, just because she might have changed her own opinion on some of the things she has taught, or whatever she is saying today, which I don't honestly even know, because I'm not listening. I don't listen to that. I still reference that she was working with true guidance and the angels that we're talking about, which I believe she was. Those books and those recordings and things from that time period are from them. It's not necessarily from her. She's channeling that information in. So I still resonate with that. I still use her information from those time periods about angels as a resource to people, because I'm feeling guided to still do that. So number one, it would be her. Work from Ted Andrews also, which is somebody that is not alive anymore, but was a fantastic spiritual teacher that I was introduced to a long time ago, with meditations with archangels for protection and empowerment and things like that. Those are probably my top 2.
Additional resources, if anyone else wants to go check, Kyle Gray, he's from Scotland, so he's got a nice little accent to listen to, but he does a lot of angel work as well. And Radley Valentine, who sort of kind of took over from Doreen Virtue. It's Radleigh Valentine, and he does a lot of work, especially with archangels, if you're interested in checking those resources out as well.
Yeah, those are really fantastic resources.
Well, we all are about options.
That's right.
and it's important that people use their own intuition and their own discernment to figure out, who they resonate with.
That's the point of what I've been talking about. Those, if you're asking, what type of questions do you ask? What type of assistance do you ask of your angels? Well, that would be probably number one. Guide me to the right resources, because the resources I'm guided to and the next person's guided to could be, some of them could be the same, some of them could be different. It doesn't mean either one is right or wrong. Right. What is right for what this person needs to learn, or for me, our purposes could be a little bit different.
Right. It's all about your own personal experience, and kind of tracking back just a little bit into what you were talking about, how religion, it's not necessarily about religion or it's all encompassing religions. My own feelings about that are organized religion was something that I believe was really created by man, and it's run by man. They might be man that's guided in their own way, but the way I look at it is spirituality is your relationship with your God, your spirit team, and organized religion is something that was, just a man-made kind of thing. That's kind of my own view on that. That's how I look at that.
I agree with that. I would say it could go either way.
So it may not sound too flattering, but my analogy with angels, they're sort of like the dogs of the spiritual realm. They love everybody. They're going to work with everybody, and they don't exclude people. And that's really important to know. I've heard some people be afraid to ask angels for something because they think if I ask, for example, Archangel Michael to protect me, I might be taking him away from someone else, but it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work that way. Although, hey, a great point to bring up. If somebody's thinking that, it doesn't work that way. Thank you for not being selfish in thinking that, but they can be more than one place at one time, or really none of this would really make sense, would it? If every person has a God team, whether they believe in God or not, or even have a belief system or not, then what? So we all have to have different ones, and we can't duplicate the same one? That doesn't even make sense to me. It's not like that. And here's the thing. When we're asking about help from angels and how they act and how they look at things, if you are connecting with angels and you know what that voice and that feeling sounds like, then you know that it is uplifting and it is calming and it is purposeful spiritually. It's not going to lead you in circles. It should not be too confusing. It should not bring confusion. It should not bring fear. If any of those things are happening, I would step back and question who you're talking to. Not to say we can't get confused about guidance, but that's when we contemplate and pray, or whatever our practices are. That's when you chew on it. And like I say, I like to sleep on it. That's my process at this point in my life, and that seems to work pretty well. But angels are not working with ego, nor is God or the universal life force or whatever you want to call it. They're not working with ego.
Yeah, that's very true. I believe that the same, and angels are always working for the greater good.
Yes, and I would say they are working with God's will. Then when they're helping me and I'm asking for help, the answers I'm probably going to get are going to be not very self-serving to me, unless what is serving to me is God's will. They are not working with ego. The messages should be uplifting. The messages should be uplifting. So we all deal with people on the earth. Any unseen energies out there are just like people on the earth that we all know. Some you're going to want to talk to, some you're not. Why? Well, you know why. Some people you're going to resonate with, some you're not. Some may be neutral. So it's the same way with unseen energies. When you're working with angels and our true guidance, it will be uplifting, and you will know that as you practice. So as you know that, if there's other energies around you that are not, you will also know that, because you will know the difference. Like, yeah, pretty sure that's not an angel right there. Right. So let's just move on and let's focus on those angelic energies that are going to make us feel so good and guide us down our path lovingly with loving messages.
Well, speaking of that, I would love to know, what is your most amazing angel story? What's your coolest thing that has happened with angels? Can you share that with us?
Well, that could be an easy question and a hard question, because honestly, there's so many. What comes to mind is me and Carol Lee. We were working together and consulting and going out to a place of business to, sit with different people there. And experiences with angels they're not always the same. Like sometimes they're more subtle, sometimes they're medium, and sometimes they're so incredible we can hardly hold it. And it's overwhelming, of course, in a wonderful way. That day, I had an experience of basically angelic energies coming into my body so hard and powerful that I could barely hold it. This was a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I wasn't quite where I was at today with being able to hold energy like that, but I was a little bit seasoned, but it still was very overwhelming. And we were in a session with somebody, and I think we were talking about their family dynamic. And I remember there was a child, a son that wasn't there, but this father was talking about, and an angel just came into my body so completely. I'm not sure I'd ever quite felt it like that, just literally taking me over in the moment. And I could hear my heart, just everything slow down, and boom, boom, boom. And it was just, I can't say I've had that quite since, but it was asking for help from our God team, having an angel come into my body so powerfully. And it was actually to help distantly heal with this son. Why did that happen? Well, because that was our intention. We were asking for that, or whatever it is that was appropriate for that day to happen. So I was mesmerized. I was speechless, but I held on and stayed awake, and we made it through that, and it was a fantastic experience. And I just had another one recently where I was at a holistic fair, actually doing healing work with a new partner there and teaching somebody that's learning these things. We were working together, and random, when you're working a fair like that, just random people come up, and you might spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with them. Not a real long time. Someone came up for a session, and kind of the same thing happened in a way that just doesn't happen all the time. And it happens so fast because, we're doing a shorter session, and I have not met these people ahead of time. The angelic energy came into my body again, so hard and so fast and so completely, it took me over, and I could barely stand up. Granted, we're in public in front of people, so they're pretty mindful about, doing things in front of people, but it does happen like that at times. And again, even where I'm at today, I can hold more of that energy and higher frequencies now than I ever have been able to, but it still overwhelmed me. So it's fantastic. I was happy that happened. It wasn't a bad thing, but I had to sit down after that because I was wobbly. But the reason that they did that is to bring those energies in for this client, for this person that was guided to come for a healing and some angelic attention. And that's what they received that day. And then also for my, the person that was kind of in training with me, it was their first fair event like that to work. And I think that also happened so they could see what it looks like when it's not happening to them.
Right.
So pretty powerful.
So Jason, if someone wants to learn more about angels from you or take your training class, how can they learn more?
That's a great question. I do have a website on Facebook and Twitter and all of those things, but I would just say visit our website, Carol Lee's website, and my own. The business is called Healing Quantum Lee, L-E-E, like Carol Lee. So it's healingquantumlee.com. So when you visit the website, you will see our classes there. First of all, the Gathering of Angels class that we have been talking about and meeting our God teams. Also an energetic healing modality that Carol Lee and I both teach and practice, which is called Quantum Touch. It's a fantastic energetic modality that pairs perfectly with the angel work that we're talking about. And we also teach an advanced class called Healing with Angels, The other classes are prereqs for that. But once those things are learned and get some proficiency in gathering of angels and quantum touch, you can take healing with angels, which is advanced energy medicine techniques, using our God teams, using the principles of quantum touch to do healing work, hands-on and distant healing work, specifically with the angels for our clients and loved ones and for ourselves.
That's fantastic. And also to our listeners, if you are interested in going to an area wellness fair, Jason is one of the leaders for the Holistic Fair in Fort Worth, which is at Billy Bob's in downtown Fort Worth, well, the Stockyard area of Fort Worth. And that takes place on every odd numbered month on the second Sunday of the month, except for in May because of Mother's Day. But you can just go to theholisticfair.com for more information and to find out when the next show is. Definitely check it out. I am there with my own table. Jason is there and a lot of other vendors too. And it's a great way, especially if you're just starting out and getting into all of this and it's all new to you. It's a good way to expose yourself to different things. Thank you for putting all that together. That's actually how I met Jason. So I'm glad to have you as a guest today. Really appreciate all your insight. And thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. And I will also say, Carol Lee and I also do a hands-on and distant sessions with angels and with energy healing for people. That's also on the website.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate your time and your insight, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Me too. I was so happy to share. Thank you so much for the invite.
All right, special thanks to our guest, Jason Carlson, for letting us know all about angels. And if you have a question about angels or any other metaphysical topic, you can send us an email question at spiritualbasicspodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Or you can always visit our website, spiritualbasicspodcast.com, where you can get links to listening to us on other platforms. We're on all the things.
All the things. Yes.
So,
I can't even keep up with the things.
Thanks so much for joining us. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.